I've learned so much about you and have been quite impacted and moved by your life's journey and everything that you've done up until this point. In addition to, quite frankly, the difference in the way that you're approaching the real estate model, it's pretty groundbreaking, and people need to know about it. We're going to start from the beginning. There's a lot to cover here, but it's all just super fascinating. So from Westerville.
You kind of started as an entrepreneur pretty early in your life. You created a landscaping business and snow removal with your brother.
Mom, phenomenal person, definitely created the heart and passion for people that I have.
My dad was a owner of a small wholesale tool distribution company.
Mm-hmm.
The entrepreneurship mindset definitely came a lot from my dad, but also my brothers. I have one brother that's 11 years older and then one that's 4 years older. My oldest brother would take care of me a lot. I mean, as I was 7, he was 18. I mean, he was always very interested in business as well. So we would do stuff like
landscaping, mowing, kind of like Pokemon card merchant business, the old lemonade stands, anything like that we could kind of be creative and have some fun with.
It got to the point where we would have some employees for like the landscaping business, and it definitely taught me a lot about entrepreneurship, and I definitely fell in love with it at a young age. Yeah, so each thing just kind of led to another. I've kind of always been opportunistic and curious about life and people that I meet. So during high school, a lot of it came from there. So a mentor of mine was my wrestling coach, David Grant, phenomenal guy. And basically he knew I loved business, and I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do when I was older. I always had a passion for how people thought, and I also had a passion for finance and for business. And so I would go to him and I would kind of talk about these two and how much I love both of them. I can't decide. And he basically was like, have you ever heard of economics? It's how people think with money. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's the best thing I've ever heard.
At some point, you end up in Slovakia while you're at a OU.
Yep.
Why?
So there's a global consulting program where basically they went around to different schools, and it was actually a professor of mine that recommended me for it. It was a $60 billion company, Orange Telecom, and they wanted to create a streaming product like Netflix, basically. So we went there, we partnered with students from there. We helped them create the product, which they ended up moving forward with, but it was more from a consultant side.
So you meet this beautiful realtor. And who was this beautiful lady? And kind of talk to us about what happened after that.
So it was a wild, amazing chain of events. So I became a financial advisor. It was going very well, was top 100 in the country. Then I started meeting some of my clients, and they would talk about their passive income from their real estate investments. And then they started to speak about how it freed up their time. Rather than doing overtime at their work, they would go to their kids' sports games, or they would go on vacation, and these checks would still hit their accounts. And I was like, wow, the money keeps working for itself. And so I looked more into it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start a real estate investment company. Bought a couple rentals and smaller buildings, and one condo that I wanted to look at. I was like, I think this girl I went to high school with, I think she's a realtor. Maybe I'll look her up. Went to the same high school, one year apart. Never knew her, but I knew of her, had a bunch of friends that were mutual friends, had seen some stuff on Facebook of her having sold some friends' houses and stuff like that. So literally messaged her on Facebook, said, hey, we don't really know each other, but I'm interested in this condo that's for sale over here. Would you mind representing me or helping me out? And she said, yeah, absolutely. So we went to see it. I bought that condo and we got married.
You joined a people-to-people program and traveled also to Cuba to meet with the owners of privately owned businesses and talk with them about the future of the Cuban economy.
Yeah.
At what point in the story does that take place? Was it shortly after?
That was definitely shortly after, probably about 2.5, 3 years after. So at that point, I'd done my master's program. I was always very interested in international business, specifically Cuba, because of the uniqueness of how it's been untouched for so many years. And when I did end up going there, there's no McDonald's, there's no Coca-Cola, there's all the 60s cars that everyone speaks about. But the interesting thing about the actual going there itself was speaking with these business owners that have never been part of a capitalistic world.
Sure.
One person I spoke with was a barber. Well, after 20 heads that he cuts that day, the government takes 100% of the income. So what's he do after 20 heads? Obviously incentivized to go home. And so I would just ask him and say, okay, let's just say the government would take 80% of your income for that 21st head. What would you do? He's like, I would cut 1,000 heads in one day. And then I kind of spoke to that, this is the idea of how capitalism incentivizes you to give more back to your community. And that's how it works itself.
Okay, wow.
So ended up doing very well. And Tina, she did a phenomenal job, and she's the best agent that I've ever met. And she started to kind of see the business knowledge and the systems that I wanted to build and all the things that I thought agents were underserved for in the industry. And she really started to see the vision and how I built all these automations that would take things off her plate. The main thing is with those systems, what I wanted to do was get as much off of the agent's plate as possible. Because what I started to see was the more overwhelmed an agent got with paperwork or kind of the secondary non-client facing items, I started to see their customer service drop quite a bit, and I knew you could never be excellent or excel at all those things. So started building out these systems and ended up cutting the agent's time about in half, so they can spend more time generating more leads or being consumer facing and really keep the customer service at a high level. And what that does is not only does it give them more time to be better with their clients, but if they are wanting to do more transactions, it gives them now double the time to go lead generate more.
Yes.
And so then they can really build that Warren Buffett snowball and start really excelling their business.
Okay, Craig, so you took another international trip that really made a big impact in your life. Would you tell me about that?
I did, absolutely. So that one was a mission trip in Haiti, which actually is very difficult to go to now because of all the hostility between the gangs and the government and everything. But when I went there, it was a mission trip where we had found out that basically women were spending about 8 hours a day going up and down these mountains to get clean water. And a group called Rain Catchers had explained this to me, and then right away I was like, I want to be a part of this. How can I do that? And so we built these rain catcher systems in Haiti, and immediately I started to understand the impact of now they could get an education, now they could spend more time with their kids, now they could contribute to the economy. And from then on, I just really have had a passion to have more of an impact on the world around me. And that's where that mantra came from. And there, every single day, it's on my whiteboard. I ask myself, did you have a positive impact on the world today?